morning from Massachusetts. I hope you can hear me well and see me well. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. And I'm going to do a quick tech check to make sure that we're good to go. I know we have a couple of early birds here. If you can hear me and see me well, give me a thumbs up or just say we are good to go. Type good to go. I'm checking on my laptop to see what you see and to hear what you hear. Yes, looks like we're in business. Now, sometimes the software does some really weird things, but I will try to monitor whether we still have sound or don't have sound. Sometimes when I switch and screen share, all of a sudden the audio cuts off. So have patience with me. I always resolve the issue. Hey, Stunning Loud One is here. Hello, hello. Thanks for confirming. KZ8888, hello to you. Amusab, hello, hello. Good to have you too. What's clockwise? What's counterclockwise? You always have such interesting but random questions. That's why your username is surprise3940. Clockwise goes in the direction of the clock, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Counterclockwise goes the other way. You're already asking interesting questions. Yes, and by the way, this is the month when we change our clocks here in the US. I thought that we had voted not to do it. Some states do not change their clocks, by the way, but here in Massachusetts we do. And I believe this coming weekend is when we do we lose an hour? Spring forward and fall back. I always remember that. You can type that, spring forward, fall back. So in the spring, we move forward in time. Fall back means in the fall, in the autumn, we move our clocks back 1 hour. So a lot of people complain about this practice. It doesn't make much sense anymore. I think originally it was to save the daylight hours for farming when so many people in our population, their agriculture was their livelihood. But now, we have other opportunities and we have electricity, we have lights and all of that. So in any case, not all states in the United States use daylight savings time, but it is still a practice here in Massachusetts, which means we will be changing our clocks. Ma Hippo is here, and we have someone from the Ukraine. Thank you for confirming that you can hear me well all the way there in Ukraine. Anti-clockwise, well, that must be a British American difference there. We say counterclockwise here in the US, but I would understand from context if you said anti-clockwise. Interesting, interesting. Okay, and Julia's here. Julia, good to have you here. Okay, welcome everyone. If you're returning, thank you so much. And if you're joining for the first time, welcome. I try to go live every month, usually on the first Friday of the month. So this is an opportunity for us to study together. I generally speak at a natural pace, sometimes a little slower, but generally at a natural pace. If you can understand me during this live stream, that tells you something about your comprehension. You understand spoken English quite well. Wonderful. And I'll be telling you about different opportunities to get further practice with me, like the membership program. Some of you are part of the YouTube membership program, and I see your colorful badges already. Thank you for being members because you help me choose the topics for the live streams, and you also get weekly quizzes on the community tab, and you also get follow-up tasks after each live stream. Thank you for being a member here. And if you want to take it up a level even more and gain practice with your microphone and your camera on, the place to go is the English with Jennifer community on Patreon, where I have small group classes for upper level students. And we'll be talking about that a bit more too. Someone is joining me from Poland. Welcome, welcome. My son, by the way, is abroad in Europe this semester, and he recently took a trip to Poland, and it was a very positive experience for him. Some of my ancestors came from Poland, so I'm glad he made it there. Okay, love all the stickers coming about. Love the energy. Fernand, come, 4261, hey to you. Okay. What tenses are used in colloquial speech? Pretty much all the tenses, although recently, I don't know if you saw the announcements, I'll answer some Q&A now and we'll jump into our lesson. Hopefully towards the end we'll have Q&A as well if you stick around. We'll be together for about an hour today, okay? To answer that question about tenses in everyday conversation, I was giving a webinar to other English teachers. The main focus was grammar, but there was a question about perfect tenses, perfect modals. I shouldn't say perfect tenses, but tenses with the perfect aspect, right? We have verbs in the perfect form, like present perfect, past perfect, future perfect. And boy, they are sure limited, especially the future and past. The future perfect, we don't really use all that often, like by tomorrow I will have finished. We usually don't use that all that often in everyday American English. As for the past perfect, there are uses. It helps us clarify that one thing happened before another in the past. But honestly, in everyday spoken American English, we often find ways to avoid it. And we use the simple past, right? Same thing with the present perfect. I have a video, it's several years old, but it's a wonderful video that I made with simple English videos. Vicky, my dear colleague who already passed away, but Vicky is a wonderful teacher and wonderful creator, and she was from the UK, and we made a video comparing and contrasting the present perfect, right? And she could give her perspective because she also spent time here in the US. So I found that, she confirmed here in America, here in the US, we find ways to avoid the present perfect. Like I might ask, did you do it yet? Right? Did you do it already? Rather than, have you already done it? Have you finished already? So there are ways that we find simpler forms to replace the perfects. It happens. Okay, so we're still good to go. I have fallen behind with the tasks. Yes. And if we said the present perfect, I would use a contraction for it to sound natural in spoken American English. I'd definitely use I've. I've fallen behind. I've really fallen behind with the tasks. All right. Okay, let's jump in so that we can get the full use out of the topic that was voted on. I only had a few people vote, but I still thank you. Let me work my magic. Now this, cross your fingers that we don't lose audio. Bear with me if we do. I'm going to share my screen. Woohoo! Look, I figured it out. Stunning lad 1. No, it'll come back. I should think that we're going to be more fortunate this time. Woo, 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 yay! Persistence, right? You can always overcome a challenge with persistence. Future perfect used to project an event in the future. Yes. But as I said, we hardly ever use that form. It's really not that common, okay? Oh, so as I said, we're going to be focusing on a topic that members helped me choose, reading to build vocabulary and reading to build fluency. Okay, stick around, members, because later today I'll be sharing a follow-up task for you to gain more practice. Okay, if you're wondering what your level is, I've said this before, I want to mention it again. It might be new for some of you. There are the different levels. I think you're familiar with these. You've seen other teachers use them too. The CEFR levels, or CEFR, some people say CEFR, is a European framework, and it's a way for us to understand levels. It's a way we can label and readily understand if you're beginner, intermediate, or advanced. It breaks up into 2 levels for basic, 2 levels for intermediate, and 2 levels for advanced. Okay? There are different ways to measure this. This is a tool that helps. This is designed by a colleague of mine, a couple colleagues. There is a CEFR level estimator now on the bottom of my homepage, englishwithjennifer.com. It takes about 45 seconds. They give you a prompt, you answer, and then you'll get a breakdown of your score. It doesn't just give you your level, it will evaluate your answer and tell you where your vocabulary is, your grammar, and your pronunciation. Okay. Manuel, I see you here. Good to have the usual crew. Okay, so if you haven't done it already, do it. We're still at the beginning of 2026, and then in about 6 months from now, you could take it again, see what progress you've made, and set a goal. You can also not be disheartened if you stay at B2, for example, but look at the numbers for vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. Have you improved those numbers? Okay. Overall, I just want you to have happy studies and know that all that you do does carry you forward. We're going to read, and I decided to take a tale by Hans Christian Andersen, or should I say Hans? Hans Christian Andersen. Does anyone know the story, The Emperor's New Clothes? The Emperor's New Clothes. This is the same person who wrote The Little Mermaid. You might know that story. You might have read it or seen the movie. Okay. And I took this from a collection of stories. If you'd like to find more, I'll put these links in the video description later. This is where I got it from. These are the tales that have been around for a long, long time. They're in the public domain. All of us can enjoy them freely. So I took this text, but then I played around with it with the help of AI. One thing you can do is you always want to read texts that are appropriate for your level. But if you find something that's a bit difficult, you can always put it into your favorite AI tool like ChatGPT and ask AI to give you a simplified summary. So let's say you took that CEFR level estimator test and you figured out, I think I'm B1. You might ask AI to give you a A2 B1 text, or if you think you're B2 C1, ask AI to give you a simplified, shortened version at the B1 level. Take it down 1 or 2 levels, at least 1, so that you can start with that simplified, shortened version and then move up. It's a way to prepare you for something more difficult. Right? But you always want to try to read at your level. It doesn't mean you can't attempt something harder, but I don't want you to be too frustrated. Give yourself a chance and use a simplified, shortened version first so that you can at least follow along better and maybe guess with unfamiliar vocabulary. Okay? Oh, it is for children. But you know what? I think you're going to find out that all of these so-called children's stories have lessons for all of us. And they, to use a Gen Z expression, is it hits different. It hits different when you're older because you're at a different point in your life and you understand the lessons differently based on all the experiences that you've had. Okay? So the first thing that we're going to do is look at a short simplified version of The Emperor's New Clothes, B1, B2. And then we'll take it up a level where there will be more advanced vocabulary. I hope you can still hear me well. Yes? Woohoo! Excited about that. Okay. All right, so this is the short version. You can see that's all it is, okay? It's just not even a page. Listen, you should all understand. I won't read too fast. Long ago, there was an emperor who loved beautiful clothes more than anything else. He spent all his money on new outfits and cared more about fashion than about his kingdom. One day, two men came to the city. They said they could make special clothes that were invisible to anyone who was stupid or not good at their job. The emperor thought this was a wonderful idea. He believed the clothes would help him discover who was clever and who was foolish. So he paid the men to begin their work. The men pretended to weave beautiful cloth, but there was nothing on their looms. When the emperor's officials visited, they saw nothing. However, they were afraid to admit it. They praised the cloth instead. Finally, the emperor went to see it himself. He also saw nothing, but he did not want to look foolish. So he said the clothes were magnificent. The emperor wore the new clothes in a grand parade. Everyone was afraid to tell the truth until a small child cried out, "But he isn't wearing anything!" The people realized the child was right. The emperor felt embarrassed, but he continued walking proudly. Please post initial reactions. You may know the story, but maybe you haven't heard it in a while. If it's the first time you're hearing it, I'd love to have that first time reaction. There could be one, two, possibly some new words here, but probably not many. If there are some unfamiliar words, you probably could guess from context. Not even a fig leaf. Yeah. Nothing to cover him. He was totally naked, huh? Quite funny. So what might not be part of your vocabulary? Perhaps weave, right? But you can guess. How do we make clothes? The fabric has to be woven. All the different threads have to come together. Weaving is the process of putting threads together. Back in the day, before everything was industrialized, people used looms. Looms, those big wooden structures that like take up half a room or more, and they would use these looms to put the fabric together, to weave. Does that help? Weave looms. Anything else? Julia, fun. I love the expression. So Stunning Lad 1 said, not even a fig leaf. The emperor was totally naked, if you could imagine. Not even a little leaf. Stunning Lad 1 wrote, not even a fig leaf to cover him. And then Julia added his birthday suit. Our birthday suit is what we were born in, which was nothing, right? So if someone is in their birthday suit, they're naked. So these are some fun, colorful, more polite ways to talk about someone being totally naked. Any other words that came up? What do you think about this emperor? Do you understand why he wanted these clothes? Other good use of vocabulary there, devoid of attire. I see that. That's good. Okay. All right. Does anyone have any questions? Hopefully you understand the basic story. This is B1, possibly B2. It's low intermediate. Okay. That's what the story is about. Now we're going to go through the longer version, not too long. It's a few pages, and we're going to increase the level of vocabulary. As I go through, I'm going to highlight some words, and maybe words that you already know, but also interesting combinations that we can call collocations. How do words combine in natural ways, right? Like make a bed. We don't do a bed, we make a bed. That's a collocation. So how do words combine naturally? One way you improve your vocabulary is not just learning new words, but understanding how the words you know combine naturally with other ones. So then you're working with bigger pieces of language. When you have these bigger chunks, it's then easier to put them into your speech. People say it takes time to speak. I need to find the words. Yes, you do. But if you have bigger chunks, you can build sentences, build ideas more quickly. That's the value of collocations. Okay. He'd gone fruity. All right, here we go. Onward. So this is more like B2 level, all right? The Emperor's New Clothes. I also did not take the original version. These fairy tales, when you read them in books and on that public domain site, you're going to see use of like Old English. I asked ChatGPT to help me do modern American English, and then I also decided to change some of the words just to increase the level, okay? But you know the story now. It should be familiar. Guess some of the words from context. Take note of any new words. I'll highlight the ones that I think you should be studying and the ones that members will be practicing. But take note of words that you want to learn, that you want to ask me about, okay? Okay, we still have sound. I keep checking. The Emperor's New Clothes. Many years ago, there was an emperor who loved fine clothes more than anything else. He splurged on elegant clothing. He neglected his army. He showed no interest in the theater, nor did he care about riding through the park unless it was a chance to show off a new outfit. He had a coat for every hour of the day. Instead of saying, "The emperor is in council," people in that country always said, "The emperor is in his dressing room." Okay. Those of you who are more advanced can help everyone else out. What does splurged on mean, right? Emperors have lots of money. He splurged on elegant clothing. He neglected his army. And he didn't go out unless it was a chance to show off his elegant clothes. Guess from context. Okay, moving on. The city where he lived was lively and full of visitors. One day, two swindlers arrived. They claimed to be expert weavers. They said they could make the most beautiful fabric ever seen. The colors and patterns would be extraordinary. But the cloth had a special power. It would be invisible to anyone who was unfit for their job or hopelessly stupid. You know the story, right? These people are going to pretend to weave cloth. They were swindlers. Were they honest or dishonest? Were they doing real business or doing shady business, right? They just wanted the money. More advanced viewers right now, help me out, help others out. What is a swindler? But the people were interested. Ooh, they make such special cloth. The cloth has special power. We can find out who is unfit and who is stupid. Because if you can see it, you are fit. You are clever. Very good. Yes, swindlers are dishonest. A crook, yes. Swindlers are crooks. They're thieves. They deceive in order to get money. They do dishonest things to get money, to cheat people and to get their money. But again, this is so interesting. Special power. Ooh, so the emperor's thinking, that would be perfect for me, thought the emperor. If I wore those clothes, I could immediately see which people in my kingdom are not suited for their positions. I could tell the clever from the foolish. So he paid the swindlers a large sum of money in advance and told them to commence their work. The two men pretended to labor at their looms. In reality, there was nothing on the looms at all. They requested the finest silk and the purest gold thread, which they quietly stuffed into their own pockets. Then they sat at the empty looms and kept up the farce well into the night. Okay, so the king paid them. They said, okay, we'll commence. We'll start. Time to start. So they're sitting there at the empty looms and they kept up the farce. Can you guess? We already know from the simplified version, they were just pretending. So to keep up the farce, just pretending. Right? They're keeping up this illusion. They're maintaining this illusion that they're really producing amazing clothes. Oh, carn artist. Good. That's a good one. Okay. After a while, the emperor grew curious. He wanted to know how the work was progressing, right? How's it going along? You know the word progress? This is the verb. How the work was progressing. Still, he felt uneasy. I don't know if I want to see. Should I see? Right? The pretense, very good. Kept up the farce. We're just keeping up that illusion. But the emperor wants to know how the work is progressing, but he felt uneasy. If the cloth was invisible to fools or to people unfit for their jobs, what if he couldn't see it? Of course, he believed he had nothing to fear, but he decided to send someone else first. I'll send my trusted old minister, he thought. He's intelligent and perfectly suited to his position. We had the word fit, suited, same thing, right? The person is appropriate, suited, fit for the position. The minister went to the workshop and stared at the bare looms. Good heavens, he thought, opening his eyes wide. I can't see anything. But he remained silent. The swindlers invited him to step closer. They asked if he admired the beautiful pattern and rich colors. They pointed to the empty loom. The poor minister stared and stared, but he saw nothing because there was nothing there. Am I stupid, he thought, or am I unfit for my position? No one must find out. So he cleared his throat and said, Oh, yes, it's lovely. The colors are magnificent and the pattern is exquisite. I will certainly inform the emperor how impressed I am. Right? If you're impressed, you think, oh, that's really good. He cleared his throat. Beautiful, exquisite, wonderful. That's a lovely word. Exquisite, amazing, beautiful, extraordinary. The swindler smiled and described the imaginary colors and uncommon patterns in great detail. The minister listened carefully so he could repeat everything accurately to the emperor. When he returned, he praised the fabric enthusiastically. That's a long word, say that. Enthusiastically. You might know enthusiasm, that excitement. Enthusiastically. How did he talk? Enthusiastically, with lots of excitement, positive excitement. Soon the swindlers demanded more silk and gold. They pocketed it all and continued the pretense that they were weaving wondrous clothing. Wondrous, you know, wonderful, wondrous. Same kind of meaning. It's wonderful, wonderful clothing. They kept up that farce. They continued the pretense. It's just one more way to say they kept pretending. It was all an illusion. And they continued and continued and continued this illusion, the farce, the pretense. They made everyone believe that something not true was true. And everyone's talking enthusiastically about something that doesn't exist. And these swindlers just want money. So what are they doing? They pocketed it all. Pocket could be a verb. What does it mean to pocket? Someone can put a definition there. They pocketed it all. What did they do? Yes, there could be a spelling difference here. Manuel, I like your sound effects there. Clearing the throat. Fit like a glove. Yes, yes, yes. And that could be literal or figurative, Julia, right? It fit like a glove could be like literally the clothing fits your body well. But it could be a position, right? The position suits you. It fits you like a glove. You're perfect for it. And it's perfect for you, right? They took it all. Very good. They took it all. They took the money to profit. They put it in their own pockets so they could profit. They could benefit. They took the money. They they lined their pockets with all the good, all the cash, right? Okay, so then the emperor sent another official to inspect the cloth. The same thing happened. The official saw nothing but empty looms, yet he too was hesitant to admit it. Hesitant to do what? Note that collocation. Hesitant to admit it. What is the verb? Hesitant is the adjective. He was hesitant to admit it, right? He's like, oh, should I say something? Should I not say something? Maybe, no, I guess I won't. So you're waiting. All reluctant is similar. You don't quite want to do something. There's something holding you back and stopping you because of this sense of, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe this is not a good idea. Maybe this is not safe. It's a little bit of fear that's holding you back. Hesitant is the adjective. Yes, reluctant is another synonym, but hesitate is the verb. So he hesitated to admit it. He was hesitant to admit it. You could use the adjective or the verb. Hesitate to admit, hesitant to admit. He praised the non-existent fabric and assured the emperor it was beautiful. We have lots of wonderful reporting verbs. We just had a test on reported speech. Here are some examples of reporting verbs. He didn't just say it was nice. He praised the fabric. He praised the clothes, saying all kinds of wonderful things. But there really wasn't any fabric. The fabric was non-existent. It did not exist. He praised the non-existent fabric and assured the emperor, oh, it's beautiful. Trust me. It's amazing. It's exquisite. When you assure someone, what are you doing? Oh, don't worry. It's amazing. Oh, you're so right. You're so smart. Great decision. Love what you're doing. Beautiful clothes. Assured. Right? You're making someone feel sure. When you assure someone, you're making them feel certain about something, you know. Maybe their safety, maybe their logic, but you're calming someone down and making them feel comfortable and confident and calm. Extol, beautiful verb there, Julia. Praise, extol. Yes, extol is even one level higher, I'd say. Extol the virtues. He praised the non-existent fabric and assured the emperor it was beautiful. Soon the entire city was talking about the marvelous cloth. We have so many words. Exquisite, marvelous, right? Marvelous. If you don't know that one, highlight it. At last, the emperor decided to see it for himself. He went with the group of trusted officials, including the two who had already visited. The swindlers pretended to work busily at their looms, right? They kept up the farce. They continued the pretense. They pretended to keep making these wondrous clothes. Isn't it magnificent? The officials said. We have one more word. Magnificent, marvelous, exquisite, extraordinary. The officials said, notice the beauty of the pattern and the colors. The emperor looked carefully. He saw nothing. What is this, he thought. I can't see anything. Am I foolish? Am I unfit to be emperor? That would be terrible. Aloud, however, he said, oh, yes, it's beautiful. I approve completely. He nodded and stared at the empty loom. None of the others dared to admit they saw nothing. None of the others dared, right? They wouldn't dare. They felt it was too risky to say anything. So no one was ready to take the risk to say the truth. None of them dared to admit the truth. They all agreed it was splendid. We have another word, splendid, magnificent, exquisite, wondrous, extraordinary, lots of good adjectives here, and suggested the emperor wear the new clothes for an upcoming procession. Upcoming. If you don't use that word, put that one into your active vocabulary, like an upcoming live stream. It's happening soon. There's an upcoming procession. They're going to have the parade. Oh my gosh. The emperor rewarded the swindlers with medals and noble titles. Oh my gosh. He gave them medals, right? Like little pieces of metal, right? But they're very pretty and like an award. And noble titles. Maybe they're Sir Weaver, Knights of the Weaving, Knights of the Loom. The night before the procession, the swindlers stayed up late with many candles burning. They pretended to cut the fabric from the loom. They snipped scissors in the air. Snip, 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 snip. What do? You cut, you snip. Just little snips are little cuts. They snipped the scissors in the air. They sewed with empty needles. And finally they announced, the clothes are all finished. I see your wonderful example, Julia, of upcoming. The upcoming week, your upcoming trip. All right, the clothes are all finished, said the emperor, or they announced, and the emperor arrived with his attendants. The swindlers held up their arms as if displaying garments. The clothing. Garments, another word for clothing, what we put on our bodies. Here are the trousers. Here is the coat. Here is the cloak, they said. It's as light as spider silk. You'll feel as if you're wearing nothing at all. That's the beauty of it. Oh, yes, of course, agreed the attendants, though they saw nothing. The emperor removed his clothes, and the swindlers went through the ridiculous motions, stupid, silly, ridiculous motions of dressing him piece by piece. They tied an imaginary train around his waist, right? This long piece of cloth. The emperor turned in front of the mirror. How well it fits, everyone said. What beautiful colors, what an elegant design. Outside, the procession was ready. A canopy waited to be carried above the emperor, right? A canopy is just a covering, right? You could have a canopy over a boat. You could have a canopy perhaps over a wedding couple, right? Sometimes people hold pieces of cloth, a canopy, to protect them. Protect from the sun, protect from elements. I'm ready, he said proudly. The attendants pretended to lift the long train of his robe from the floor. They held nothing but air. The emperor walked through the streets beneath the canopy. Crowds lined the roads and filled the windows. How magnificent the emperor's new clothes are, people cried. What a splendid train. What a perfect fit. No one wished to admit they saw nothing. To do so would imply they were either stupid or unfit for their job. Then a small child spoke up. But he isn't wearing anything at all. Hush, said the child's father. But people began whispering. The child says he isn't wearing anything. He isn't wearing anything. Soon the crowd was shouting it. He isn't wearing anything. It seemed the people were right, and this made the emperor's flesh creep. You can imagine that. Still, he straightened his back and continued walking more proudly than ever. The attendants walked behind him, carrying the train that wasn't there. The end. Dare to admit. The boldness to admit. Yes, Manuel. Thanks for adding that. Okay, this is not a super common pattern, but I want you to understand it. If something makes your flesh creep or crawl, creeping and crawling is like the slow, low motion. So it's that feeling of uncomfort, like a chill going up your skin, like maybe you're afraid, uneasy, you just kind of know something's wrong, or it's not a good thought. It's a negative thought, usually some sort of fear or disgust. It makes your flesh creep. It makes your flesh crawl. So he knew that the truth, if it's the truth, would be quite awful to acknowledge. So he just tried not to, although the thought made his flesh creep. But he continued to walk proudly. Julia, you're going where I want you to go. I want you to start thinking about what this story means, okay? So before we go into pronunciation, here's some things to consider. Reading is wonderful, guys. There's so many ways to read. Whether you're reading a news story or a tale like Hans Christian Andersen, you read it, You do your best to understand it. I gave you a strategy where you take parts of it or all of it and have AI give you some simplified, shortened versions of it to prepare you for the more difficult reading. Once you go through, mark up the words, try to guess from context. If you need to start looking them up, do so, okay? We're going to read again. Not the long version, but the short version. But this is something you could do. Read the version again. Also, you'll have the link to the original version of this tale in English, and you should be able to go through and make sense of it. There will be some different words, especially spellings, because it's not written in American English, but you'll be able to follow along. Then reflect on it. Whatever you read, think about it. Think about it. Reflect on it. You can speak or write. If you're by yourself, write out your reaction. Write out your summary. Extend the practice. So these are my questions for you. What do you think is the main lesson of this story? Why do you think only the child told the truth? Oh, there we go. Think about that. Have you ever agreed with others even though you knew they were wrong? What does this story teach us about social pressure? The story was written a long time ago, but humans are humans. We really haven't changed that much, have we? What kind of leader was the emperor? Put some thoughts in the comments. You can enjoy sharing your thoughts, your reactions to this story. It is a children's story, but there's a lesson here. There's a lesson for us adults. Super story, yeah, isn't it? Think about it. What's the lesson? We say the moral. I mean, there's a lesson here. Isn't it ridiculous? The guy paid for something that didn't exist. Why? People lied to him. Why? Only a child told the truth. Why? And are the answers really so surprising? Have we changed much over the centuries, or has human nature pretty much stayed the same, right? We just have different sets of circumstances. Our clothes look different. Our lives look a little different, but how we think and how we behave, humans are humans. The child wasn't afraid to tell the truth, right? The adults had reason to fear. What were they fearful of? So I might invite my members to pursue this and to really reflect a little more and write a couple of well thought out sentences, not essays. I'm not inviting essays. You're welcome to do one on your own, but I'd love to know, like, what do you think is the main lesson? And if you're watching the recording, take the time to reflect on that. Write out one very well written, well thought out sentence about the story. What does this story teach us about humans? What can we learn from the child? And you can also reflect on your own. Have you ever agreed even though you knew you really shouldn't agree? Why do we agree with something ridiculous? And think about this emperor, right? An emperor who splurged on things he shouldn't have splurged on, right? Have humans really changed that much, right? What did he care most about? Julia says, the child doesn't have, yes, the expertise of external validation. I see what you're saying. Yes, yes, yes. The adults were so concerned about external validation. Beautiful. I love that thought. I've talked about that myself. It's like, as adults, we too often look for external validation. We look outside of us for people to say, yes, you're good. Yes, you're smart. Yes, everything's wonderful. But the answers really should come from within. And then it shouldn't matter what anyone says, right? Especially if they're saying negative things. You shouldn't have to turn to other people to know your value. You should know for yourself that you have value, and what you're fit for, and what you believe you're suited for in this world, right? Don't wait for other people to tell you. You find out for yourself and believe it. The child wasn't brainwashed, right? To some degree, you're right. As we go through life, as soon as we start going to school, there's some brainwashing, conditioning. You actually see this tale gets quite deep. The adults were so afraid because they've been brainwashed, conditioned. Society has taught them to worry about certain things, right? And not trust their intuition and not trust what they know to be true, to trust their own perception. Really good lessons here from Hans Christian Andersen, yes? They're just saying what they know the emperor wanted to hear, says Stunning Lad 1. Yes, right? Saying things to please others. We call it people pleasing. Are we all guilty of people pleasing sometimes? Yes, sometimes to different degrees, because we want to please others. But if we're doing it at the expense of what feels right, something's not quite appropriate in that choice, is it? So there's a lot to think about here. I want you to take these questions and think about it, and then write, whether it's for me in the comments, for yourself, do it in English. What do you think is the main lesson of the story? Why do you think only the child told the truth? Have you ever agreed with others even though you knew they were wrong? And what does the story teach us about social pressure? What kind of leader was the emperor? Wonderful. Even if you just took one of these questions and wrote out some thoughts, let the ideas flow, right? Super. You beg to differ. Having said that people jumped on the bandwagon and follows suit instead of letting the cat out of the bag. Good colorful expressions. Letting the cat out of the bag is letting out the secret, right? Letting out the truth. And they jumped on the bandwagon. Jumping on the bandwagon means you're getting on the same level of thought, the same thinking that everyone else has, because you don't want to be different. You're afraid to differ from the others. So you go with the majority. You jump on the bandwagon. Good expressions, Julia. Yes? Love your thoughts. You guys have some good quality thoughts today. All right, I'm going to scroll through, and this is another chance before we do an oral reading, because we're here to build vocabulary and fluency. This is the long version we just read. I'm going to read out the vocabulary. You can read it out with me for pronunciation practice. If you have final questions, please ask. And some of the more advanced viewers can help me answer those vocabulary questions. The first word I highlighted is splurge on something. Verb, neglect. He neglected his army. You neglect something, you neglect someone. He wants to show off his outfit, show off his clothing. Phrasal verb, show off clothing, show something off. It's separable. Swindlers, we all agreed. Crooks, thieves, they just want the money. Unfit, I'll actually highlight the collocation. Unfit for something means you're not suited, right? You don't have the qualifications. Commence, a fancier way, a more academic or professional way of saying commence is start. I should say just more formal. Commence the work, commence operations. Keep up the farce, it's an expression. Keep up is the phrasal verb, to continue. The farce, right? The illusion, the pretense. It's just not real. Keep up the farce. Progressing, the verb progress, right? How it was going along. Uneasy, not comfortable. Uneasy. Suited, we had fit or unfit. Suited, you could also say unsuited. Unsuited to, okay? You can use to after that. Showcase, yes, there's an alternative. I see someone from Brazil. Great to have you here. Cleared his throat. That's a fun one to know. Make sure you know that one. Cleared your throat. Lots of great adjectives today. The first one, exquisite. Wonderful. Okay. Still checking the sound here. Impressed, right? If something impresses you, you are impressed. Quick little challenge here for those following along. If you feel impressed, what do we call the thing that is impressing you? How do we change the ending? I am impressed because that work is There's another ending. I'll go on, but I'll come back. Enthusiastically, right? Excitedly. Pretense, we had farce before. Pretense is similar. Farce, pretense, illusion, it's all not real. Wondrous, like wonderful, it causes you to wonder. Hesitant, like reluctant, it's an adjective. Praise, saying all kinds of good things about something. In this case, it didn't even exist. It was non-existent. But everyone assured the emperor. They told him it's all okay, it's wonderful. They wanted to calm him and make him feel certain and confident. Assured. Impressive, very good, thank you. So everyone was impressed. They found the work to be impressive. Very good. You guys are awesome. Marvelous, another adjective. Another adjective here, magnificent. Marvelous, magnificent. If one of these is in your passive vocabulary, it's time to pull it out into your active vocabulary. Try creating an example today. Try using it aloud today. I feel marvelous. Oh, isn't the day magnificent? Look at the sunset, right? Isn't it exquisite? Dare to do something. Note that collocation. Dare to do what? You take the risk. You have the boldness, the confidence to risk something, right? Only that child dared to tell the truth. Splendid, wonderful. Upcoming, meaning it's in the very near future. An upcoming announcement, right? Upcoming event. Snip, snip, snip. When I get my bangs trimmed, there's little snip, 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 little cuts of the scissors. Garments, words for clothing. Ridiculous, stupid and silly. Canopy is just something that covers. That could be in your passive vocabulary today, but a canopy covers. There are beds with canopies. Does anyone happen to have a bed? When I was a little girl, I had a beautiful yellow canopy bed. I had a yellow canopy over my bed, my little girl bed, a canopy. Imply, to do so would imply they were stupid. So no one wanted to say the truth. As Julia said, no one wanted to let the cat out of the bag because doing so would imply, not state directly, but indirectly, you would be admitting that you're unfit or that you're foolish. So it's an indirect way of communicating. If you imply, you communicate without direct words. Imply. This expression might be new for some of you, probably a lot of you, but you learn it passively first. Just understand it. If something makes your flesh creep, if something makes your flesh crawl, it makes you feel like a chill and it's uncomfortable. Maybe you're afraid or just like kind of disgusted by something. Inspired, impressive, professionalism. You guys, super good with vocabulary. Okay. Any questions about the vocabulary? Give you the willies. That's a good one. Give you the willies. There's different expressions. It makes you like, ugh, like I don't like that thought. Willies, it just gives you a chill in a very unpleasant way. Okay. So members will get practice with vocabulary. What I'd like to do now is go to an oral reading. And this is something you can practice on your own, right? You can do this multiple times. Let me take a sip of tea. Reading aloud is a wonderful way to build your fluency and confidence. I highly encourage you on day one, you just record yourself, then practice for several days, once a day, and then record yourself again and you can compare and you'll hear the confidence build. You'll hear how much more smoothly you likely can read after having practiced for about a week, okay? At least several days. This short version is the one we'll use because when you do oral reading, you want something slightly easier than your level so that you can focus on pronunciation rather than comprehending new vocabulary, okay? All right. Oh, I'm so happy we had sound all this time. As I do this reading, we're going to mark up the thought groups. I've talked about thought groups in various lessons on pronunciation. I show thought groups in oral readings in my oral reading fluency playlist. The thought groups are how we chunk the language together in grammatical units. This is how we can create a smooth reading so that we're not trying to say too many words on one breath. These are logical places to pause. So I'm going to read it, mark up the thought groups, and then when you come back to this part, and you'll note that it's about 55 minutes into the recording, you can turn off the sound without me talking and just look at the text and you read aloud, okay? But follow the thought groups. Here we go. The Emperor's New Clothes. Long ago, there was an emperor who loved beautiful clothes more than anything else. He spent all his money on new outfits and cared more about fashion than about his kingdom. One day, two men came to the city. They said they could make special clothes that were invisible to anyone who was stupid or not good at their job. The emperor thought this was a wonderful idea. He believed the clothes would help him discover who was clever and who was foolish. So he paid the men to begin their work. The men pretended to weave beautiful cloth, but there was nothing on their looms. When the emperor's officials visited, they saw nothing. However, they were afraid to admit it. They praised the cloth instead. Finally, the emperor went to see it himself. He also saw nothing, but he did not want to look foolish. So he said the clothes were magnificent. The emperor wore the new clothes in a grand parade. Everyone was afraid to tell the truth, until a small child cried out, "But he isn't wearing anything." The people realized the child was right. The emperor felt embarrassed, but he continued walking proudly. Okay. We can take this last sentence and you can practice. Look at how we've divided this sentence into two thought groups and this longer sentence into also two. That's how I would do it. The people realized the child was right. And within it, you're seeing each thought group has content words, nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. Main verbs are stressed, helping verbs usually aren't. Function words, all those little words, are not stressed. You could mark up the thought groups. You'll also hear my reading that I stress nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. Okay? Continued, walking, all of these are stressed. Within a thought group, it's usually the final content word that receives even more weight. So the people realized the child was right. The emperor felt embarrassed, but he continued walking proudly. Try that, okay? And another fun exercise, because I know one of you is up to the challenge, Stunning Lad 1, Julia, you might be too. You could have fun and look at the original version and decide how you would rewrite it. Again, it's a translation. This was not written in English, right? It was not written in English originally. It was translated. So perhaps you would write it differently. This is a version that ChatGPT came up with, and then I changed it around, and I added a lot of words that I wanted because I wanted to challenge you with words like exquisite, extraordinary, and I put in a lot of reporting verbs because I didn't want said to be used all the time. So praised, assured, admitted, those kinds of reporting verbs were my choice. So you could have fun doing that as well. Take a section of the story and rewrite it the way you would want it to be told. Fun ways, okay? All right, so go back, listen to my reading, go back and you read it. That's my advice, all right? I also highly suggest that you reflect on these questions. You can pick up your phone and record your answers. You could also write out your answers. There's a lot of good practice you can gain from this story, The Emperor's Clothes. All right. We covered reading to build vocabulary, reading to build fluency. If you'd like more practice, you know where to get it. There are a lot of free playlists here on my channel. If you like reading aloud with me, check out the oral reading fluency playlist. I also, if you're like, I don't want to just read stories, fine. I have videos on news articles. If you'd like to work with news articles, I have a few recent videos where I read articles aloud. Okay, I'll share this in the comments later. This is the link where I got the tale from, but again, it's a different version. You're welcome to read that version. It's different from what we read today. All right. Members, you will be getting your perks today. You'll be getting the follow-up task. All right. Thank you all members for being here and for participating, and you will get your follow-up tasks soon. But remember, you get more practice, more feedback on Patreon because I turn on cameras and mics, live Q&A sessions where we answer questions not in a rushed manner. We have plenty of time to discuss all the doubts that you have so that we erase those doubts. And there's the link. It's on my homepage here on YouTube. Check it out. We have class next week. We'll be giving excellent explanations. If you want to give an excellent explanation, you can practice that with me and others this month on Patreon. Okay, we have classes, tasks, materials, office hours. We focus on all skills. The topic is giving excellent explanations. All right, time for Q&A and we'll wind down. Oh, thank you, Julia. You don't have to smash the like button. How about a little tap? I would appreciate tap, tap, tap. Hit the like button. Put some comments in. I'd love to hear not just like I appreciate all comments. I do. But we read an interesting story today. And isn't it wonderful that somebody so long ago wrote a story that is known around the world, and it has something to teach us about human nature even today? I mean, that's a contribution. Hans Christian Andersen, give some thumbs up to him. Woo. Okay. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your participation. Let me go back to the webcam only. I'm so thankful we had sound, no problems today. Okay. I'll see you again March. Oh my gosh, it's already March. I'll see you in April, folks. But I hope to see some of you sooner in the English with Jennifer community on Patreon. Take care. Happy studies.